my way 切り開いてゆけ
Hello everybody! Infinite Shinjo here, and welcome back to the next episode of Let's Talk Anime. And today I have 3 more suggestions that were given to me about anime to watch, and without any further ado, let's get into this. The first suggestion was for me to watch Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. Now, I did hear about it before, but I just didn't know much about it. I've only heard a couple of the openings and that's about it. So I did a little research, and at least from how I'm seeing it, Phantom Blood was the first one. So that's what I went with. If it's not the first one, oh well. Also, for this video and probably future videos, the style is going to be a bit different. I wrote out initial thoughts while watching this, and then pros and cons, because some of my initial thoughts don't really fit into either a pro or a con, just something that I noticed or something that I realized. So for my initial thoughts, I'm wondering, how exactly did Jojo's father live the car crash? Was it because of that mask that was in the show, or is it something entirely different? Oh, also, it might be a good idea for me to mention what the show is basically about. Basically, the main character is Jojo. He comes from a rich family. This other guy, Dio, his parents die, and Dio comes to live with Jojo, and Dio basically tortures Jojo every chance he gets. In a broad outline of it, there's a lot more that happens, but I don't want this video to be too long. Also, a couple of other things I realize now where a couple of these memes come from involving JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. For example, the ending is that whole to be continued thing that you see in a whole bunch of JoJo memes. And second, this is where the whole thing of you thought this, but it was actually I, Dio. See, I didn't even realize that it came from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, so I guess good on me for realizing it. See, I didn't even know where the context of it was from, but now I realize that the whole thing is Jojo is interested in this girl, Dio kisses her first, and he says, you thought that Jojo was going to be your first kiss, but it was actually I, Dio. And the instant I saw that, I realized, so this is where that thing comes from, huh? The things that I like about, I watched like maybe the first 2 episodes, maybe the first 3, I can't remember, but I like the art style. It's very unique, especially in the opening. The second thing that I like is it's a very gripping and interesting story. In the few episodes I watched, there was never a time that I got bored or wondering, when's this scene gonna end? Now, the only thing that I didn't like about it, now this is just my personal taste, but it was a little bit too realistic and bloody for me. Although, keep in mind, a lot of the shows that I watch that I consider my favorites are like Lucky Star, so shows that don't really follow the laws of physics in a way. So I guess, in a way, you could just say that it's too realistic for me. Although it's weird for me to say that it's too bloody, considering the show is literally called Phantom Blood. But regardless, I'm probably not going to keep up with the show because they've had multiple spin-offs. And by the time that I catch up to it, they're probably going to have more. So, basically the same case with a lot of these anime that I talk about that are suggestions to me, that there are just too many episodes for me to keep up with. Now, it's not the show's fault, it's nobody's fault, it's just that I don't have enough time to keep up with all this stuff. The next suggestion is Megaman NT Warrior. Or, I actually didn't know this, Megaman is known as Rockman in the Japanese version. I literally never knew that, because I've always watched the dub of Megaman, if you would call it dub, I guess. I watched the Megaman show that was back in like the 90s. I know my brother and I got a kick out of that show. I'm not sure if that was originally from Japan. I feel like it probably was, but I just didn't know it. But I just remember seeing commercials about Megaman NT Warrior on Kids WB in between watching Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, stuff like that. The things that I like is, first of all, they got the voice actor for Eddie from Ed, Edd and Eddy to voice a character on the show. The instant I heard his voice, I was thinking, wait, pause. Let me check on this voice actor. Oh, it's the same person as Eddie from Ed, Edd and Eddy. And I just love how they take voice actors from shows that I've watched and take them into other shows. It's just fun. The second thing that I like is the whole joke about snail mail as compared to email. Especially in this day and age where everything is online, it's just funny that they make a joke about snail mail. Now, the only thing I didn't like about it is the whole ambiguity of where Lan's father is. I remember in the first episode they mentioned that he programmed Megaman, so either they didn't cover it in the first episode, or I missed it, or they're going to cover it later. I don't know. They're probably going to cover it later, knowing my luck. But that was just the only real question that kind of took me away from the show, because I was wondering the whole time, where's his father? Where's his father? And the last topic for today's video is Mecard. Now, out of all of these shows, this one I have a lot more notes from my initial thoughts. So, just going through them. I like how the opening is just short and sweet. Although, on the other hand, I'm not a fan of how Pokemon dub only has 30-second openings. But I just like how they just cut the opening short and just get into the show. And more importantly, it's a cool opening regardless, so it's not like it takes away from anything. I liked the beginning scene with the cat chasing the car. I can't remember what the car's name is. It ends up being Jason's little sidekick, I guess to call it. That's not exactly the same thing, but it's close. Also, another question. Did Jason's dad die? I'm not sure what it is about today's episode that makes me question about everybody's dad, but I remember Jason looking at a picture and said something like, "Where are you, Dad?" or something like that. I can't remember the exact words, but the way he says it makes you wonder, is he coming back? Is he never coming back? Also, I go into this a bit later with my pros and cons, but I just like the dialogue with this show. Because to start, the instant Jason walks into class, he says, "Sup, y'all." I'm not sure why I get so tickled from him saying that, but I do. And also in the second episode, Dabby says the word noob. Now, I'm sure that there are other anime that say stuff like "sup y'all" and "noob," but I just get a bit of a kick out of that. So after watching the first 2 episodes, I've determined that this show is a mix between card game anime and mecha anime. Not really saying that's good or bad, that's just something I noticed. And for some reason, I love when Dabby's car just goes and says "ooga booga." I'm not sure what it is about any of the dialogue in this show that just makes me laugh, but it does. Next, I'm wondering, are Dabby and Dana going to be basically the Team Rocket of this show? Because they seem like they would be the kind of Team Rocket, because even though they're supposed to be the villains, they do have that sort of still jokey atmosphere about them. And finally, for my beginning thoughts, is that whole anti-rule at the end of a match going to be important later? Because from the way they make it sound, it might be, but I might be looking too far into it. Now, the things that I like is the dialogue. The dialogue is probably my number one for this show. The dialogue is just so hilarious to me, especially the parts that I mentioned. There are at least a couple of other parts that I just got a kick out of. And I like the designs of Juliet and Isabel. I'm not sure what it is about them, I just like the designs. And the last thing for pros, at least Jason isn't like a chosen one or something. Because a lot of shows that do this sort of formula, they make it like, oh, you're the main character, you are the chosen one, or something like that. At least they didn't go that route. Now, the things that I didn't like are, first of all, in, I believe it's the first episode, Jason makes a cat joke. He has a cat, and it's something like he's trying to sneak out of the house, and he says, "Don't let the cat out of the bag." And the instant he said that, I was thinking, really, you had to make a joke about that. Because a lot of shows, let me clarify, a lot of shows that I watch, whenever there's a cat in the scene, you have to make a joke about that cat. Now, from what I've seen, it seems like it's only primarily used in the dub, because I've been watching Tada Never Falls in Love, and they don't make jokes like that with Nyanko Big. At least not yet. And the other thing I didn't like is, after watching episode 2, of course it has to have a card game aspect to it. I'm not sure if they're actual real life cards, I wouldn't be surprised if they are, but I don't know, even though I'm a fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I collect Pokemon cards, it just sort of rolls my eyes a bit when I find out, oh, this is another card game anime. Not saying there's a problem with it, it's just that it seems like there are a lot of them. But those are all my thoughts on Mecard, and that is the end of the episode. So, if you enjoyed, do not forget to Mach Punch that like button down below and subscribe so you don't miss any of my other videos. I'm going to try and bulk record a little bit over these next 2 days since I'm going to have time, but I'm probably just going to record the audio if anything. You didn't need to hear any of this anyway. Oh well, it's out there. Make sure to stay subscribed so you can watch the next episode of this. Leave any suggestions for Let's Talk Anime down in the comment section, and I will see you in the next video. Have an awesome day, everybody.
大体エスタデイ365日分の学びをカバンに詰め込んでいつもみたい